The Hartwell estate had always been the kind of place that made grief look decorative. The chandeliers glowed warmly over polished marble floors. Crystal glasses lined silver trays. Fresh white roses filled every room, their scent expensive and heavy, as if sorrow itself had been arranged by a florist. Even the silence inside the house felt curated. And in the center of it all stood Amelia Hartwell, 7 months pregnant, dressed in black, one hand resting lightly beneath the curve of her stomach as guests moved around her in lowered voices. This was not a funeral. Ethan Hartwell had already been buried 2 weeks earlier. This was something Lorraine Hartwell called a family remembrance gathering, a phrase so elegant it almost disguised what it really was: an audience, a performance, one final opportunity for the Hartwell family to display grief the same way they displayed their wealth, carefully, publicly, and with excellent lighting. Amelia stood near the tall windows of the drawing room, watching rain stripe the glass. Beyond the gardens, the sky had turned the color of wet slate. The weather felt honest. It didn't pretend to be beautiful. Inside, pretenses were everywhere. Women in muted silk brushed past her with pity arranged on their faces. Men who barely knew Ethan shook their heads gravely and said things like, "Such a terrible loss," and "He had such a bright future." Board members from Hartwell and Vale Holdings spoke in softened business voices. Distant relatives whispered over champagne they tried very hard not to look like they were enjoying. And every few minutes, Amelia felt them looking at her. Not just because she was the widow, because she was pregnant, because the child she carried was the last living piece of Ethan, and because everyone in that room knew Lorraine Hartwell had never wanted her there in the first place. Amelia had not grown up in rooms like this. She was raised by her mother in a modest 2-bedroom home above a bookstore in a quiet neighborhood 3 towns away. Her childhood was filled with library cards, hand-me-down sweaters, and dinners where love was always present, even when money was not. She had learned early that gentleness was not weakness, that dignity did not come from price tags, and that people revealed themselves most clearly in the way they treated those who could do nothing for them. Ethan had loved that about her. He met her 3 years earlier at a charity literacy event his company had sponsored mostly for publicity and promptly forgotten. Amelia had been there organizing children's books, kneeling on the carpet with a cardigan with ink on her fingers. Ethan, in a tailored suit he wore like it belonged to someone else, had ended up sitting cross-legged beside her while she repaired the torn spine of a picture book with clear tape. Later, he told her that in a room full of people trying to impress each other, she was the only person paying attention to what actually mattered. Lorraine hated her almost instantly. Not openly at first. Lorraine was far too refined for obvious cruelty in the beginning. Her disapproval came wrapped in velvet. It arrived as compliments with sharp edges.
As if grief were a stain Amelia ought to keep from the upholstery. Still, Amelia stayed at the estate after the funeral, partly because she was exhausted, partly because Gregory insisted it was best for the family, and partly because Ethan's old bedroom at the townhouse in the city felt unbearable without him. Helena, the housekeeper, became her quiet refuge. She brought Amelia tea without being asked, fresh toast when nausea hit, blankets when the evenings turned cold. And once, very late, when Amelia stood alone in the nursery Ethan had painted, Helena said the simplest and kindest thing anyone had offered in days. "You do not have to become small just because they are uncomfortable with your pain." Amelia never forgot it. Neither did Naomi, who visited whenever her hospital shifts allowed. Naomi hated the Hartwell estate on sight. "This house looks like a museum where joy came to die," she muttered the first time she walked in. Amelia laughed for the first time in days. Naomi sat with her through the worst nights, rubbed her swollen feet, checked her blood pressure and glared at anyone who spoke to Amelia as if she were fragile furniture. Lorraine despised Naomi too. She called her that loud friend from the hospital, as though loyalty were something vulgar. The remembrance gathering was Lorraine's idea. She must re-enter society at some point, Lorraine told Gregory, as though Amelia were recovering from bad manners instead of widowhood. So now, 2 weeks after burying her husband, Amelia stood beneath chandeliers while strangers consumed catered grief in the house where every wall still carried Ethan's memory. Her wore one of the only black dresses that still fit over her pregnancy. Her ankles were swollen, her back ached. The baby had been restless all morning, as though even this small life inside her sensed tension in the air. Across the room, Lorraine floated among guests in dove-gray silk, receiving condolences with regal precision. She knew exactly how to tilt her chin, exactly when to sigh, exactly how long to hold someone's hand. She looked less like a grieving mother than a woman presiding over a brand. Celeste stood near the fireplace, too stiff, too pretty, too uncertain. She kept glancing at Amelia as if wanting to come over, but every time Lorraine looked her way, she froze. Gregory hovered beside the drinks table, speaking softly to a business associate, his shoulders already curved inward with avoidance. Arthur Bellamy had not yet arrived. Amelia noticed that more than once. Ethan had trusted Arthur. That mattered. At 7:30, Lorraine tapped a spoon against her glass. The room quieted instantly. Every conversation folded inward. Every guest turned. Amelia's stomach tightened. Lorraine smiled with practiced sorrow. "Thank you all for coming tonight to honor my son, Ethan. Your presence means more than words can express." She paused delicately. "Ethan was devoted to this family, to our legacy, and to the future we all believed he would help shape." Amelia looked down. Something in the wording felt wrong. Not remembrance, possession.
Lorraine continued. Loss reveals many things. It reveals strength, character, duty. Naomi, standing near the back, narrowed her eyes. Lorraine's gaze drifted toward Amelia. And in difficult times, it becomes especially important that each person understands their place. The room changed. Not loudly, not visibly, but Amelia felt it. The way people held their breath, the way attention sharpened, the way silence became interested. Amelia slowly lifted her eyes. Lorraine set down her glass. "Amelia, dear, why don't you come stand beside me?" Every instinct in Amelia told her not to move, but 50 pairs of eyes were already on her. So she walked forward, one careful step after another, one hand pressed beneath her belly, the other at her side. She stopped a few feet from Lorraine, close enough to see the satisfaction hidden beneath the older woman's sadness. Lorraine turned to the guests. "As you all know, Ethan was extraordinarily generous. Sometimes," she added with a soft, cutting glance at Amelia, "too generous." A murmur flickered at the edges of the room. Naomi stepped forward, but Helena lightly touched her arm. "Not yet." Lorraine's voice remained smooth. "Amelia has been staying with us during this difficult period, and of course we have offered her every comfort. But tonight I feel it is important to clarify a few matters for everyone's sake." Gregory looked up sharply. "Lorraine!" She ignored him. This family has obligations, responsibilities, standards, and while we all sympathize with Amelia's condition," her eyes dropped briefly, deliberately to Amelia's stomach, "sympathy must not be confused with entitlement." The humiliation landed so hard that for a second Amelia felt physically cold. No one moved. No one spoke. Lorraine went on. "My son is gone, and however tragic that is, life does not permit sentiment to cloud practical decisions. Amelia will of course be provided for appropriately. A stipend has been arranged. Temporary accommodations can be discussed. But the Hartwell estate, the Hartwell name, and Hartwell affairs will remain where they belong, with family." There it was, the blade beneath the silk. Not "you are grieving," not "you are carrying Ethan's child," not "you are loved," just "you do not belong here." Amelia felt the baby kick sharply. Naomi took another step. "You've got some nerve." Lorraine raised her hand without looking at her. "This is a private family matter." Naomi let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "Private? You're saying it in front of half the county." A few guests shifted awkwardly. Celeste looked pale. Gregory finally crossed the room. "That's enough, Lorraine." But Lorraine had gone too far to stop now. Cruelty, once fed by an audience, rarely backs down. She looked Amelia directly in the eyes. "I know this is difficult for you, but the sooner you accept reality, the easier this transition will be. Ethan cared for you, yes, but affection does not alter blood." Amelia stared at her. For a moment, she could not hear the room anymore. Only the blood rushing in her ears. Only the memory of Ethan kneeling on the kitchen floor with tears in his eyes. Only the knowledge that the child inside her would someday hear stories about this family, and she would have to decide which parts were true. She could have cried. That was what Lorraine expected. She could have broken. That too would have pleased her. Instead, Amelia straightened. When she spoke, her voice was soft enough that the room leaned in to catch it. "You are right about one thing, Lorraine." Lorraine blinked. "Grief reveals character." Silence. Amelia took a slow breath. "And tonight, everyone in this room has seen yours." Lorraine's expression hardened. "How dare you?" The doors at the far end of the drawing room opened. Arthur Bellamy stepped inside, rain still darkening the shoulders of his coat, a leather document case in one hand. He took in the room with one practiced sweep. The guests, Gregory's face, Celeste in tears, Naomi furious, Amelia standing alone, and Lorraine blazing with offended dignity. Arthur removed his gloves slowly. "Am I late?" he asked, "or right on time?" No one answered. He walked toward them, his shoes quiet against the polished floor. When he stopped beside Amelia, his voice shifted, gentled. "Mrs. Hartwell," he said, inclining his head, "are you all right?" It was such a simple question. No one else had asked her that all evening. Amelia swallowed. "I will be." Arthur nodded once. Then he turned to Lorraine. "I received Mr. Gregory Hartwell's message that the family had gathered. Under the circumstances, this is actually very convenient." Lorraine stiffened. "This is neither the time nor place, Arthur." "With respect," Arthur replied, opening his case, "your son anticipated this exact possibility." Something flickered across Lorraine's face. Not confusion, recognition. Arthur withdrew a sealed folder, heavy cream paper, Ethan's initials pressed into dark blue wax. The room went perfectly still. Gregory frowned. "Arthur, what is this?" Arthur's expression did not change. An instruction attached to Ethan Hartwell's final will and testament, updated 11 weeks before his death. Lorraine's color shifted. Arthur looked at Amelia before breaking the seal. Ethan left specific directives to be read immediately if his wife's standing in the family was publicly challenged, diminished, or threatened after his death. Every eye in the room swung to Lorraine. For the first time all evening, she looked uncertain. Arthur unfolded the document. His voice, when he read, was measured and clear. "If this document is being opened under the conditions I described to Mr. Bellamy, then it means my wife, Emilia, has been placed in the cruel position of having to defend her dignity while grieving me. If so, let this serve not only as legal clarification, but as my final word on the matter." Amelia's hand flew to her mouth. It was Ethan. Even on paper, she could hear him.
Arthur continued. "First, my wife Amelia Hartwell is the sole beneficiary of my personal estate, including all liquid accounts held in my name alone, the townhouse on Halston Street, my vehicle collection, and my art holdings." A murmur swept the guests. Arthur did not pause. "Second, all Hartwell and Vale voting shares under my control are to be placed in trust for my child, to be managed exclusively by Amelia until our child reaches 25 years of age. During that period, Amelia shall exercise all voting rights attached to those shares with counsel from Arthur Bellamy." Gregory stared. Celeste whispered, "Oh my God." Arthur turned a page. "Third, my mother, Lorraine Hartwell, is to have no authority, informal or otherwise, to any asset, account, property, or trust designated for my wife or child. If she contests this arrangement, her annual discretionary allowance from the Hawthorne Trust shall be suspended immediately pending litigation." Lorraine's lips parted. It was the first time all evening she looked truly stripped of composure. Arthur read on. "Fourth, the estate house is not, and never was, Amelia's burden to carry. If she chooses to remain temporarily, she shall do so with full authority and respect. If she chooses to leave, the Halston Street townhouse is to be transferred into her sole name within 72 hours, free of lien or interference." Naomi closed her eyes and exhaled a savage little breath of relief. But Arthur wasn't finished. He lifted the final page. "And lastly, because legal language rarely says enough when love is involved, I leave this statement to be read aloud if necessary." Arthur's voice softened. "Mother, if you are hearing this, then you have done exactly what I feared you would do. You have mistaken wealth for virtue and blood for loyalty. Emilia is my family. The child she made in love is your grandchild. If you have used my death as an opportunity to humiliate the woman I love, then understand this clearly. The shame in this room is not hers." Lorraine's breath caught. Gregory closed his eyes. Arthur read the final lines. "To Amelia, if they made you feel alone, they were lying. I know your strength. I know your heart. And I know that the child we made in love will be safer with your kindness than with anyone's control. Walk away from anyone who asks you to beg for what is already yours. You never had to earn your place with me. You were home the day I met you." By the time Arthur lowered the page, there wasn't a sound in the room, not even from the guests. Emilia was crying now, but quietly. Not from humiliation, not from defeat. These were tears pulled from a place deeper than shame, a place where grief and love met each other without armor. Lorraine stood like stone. Then, because people like her always reached for pride when apology would have saved them, she said coldly, "A grieving son made emotional decisions." Arthur closed the folder. "No," he said, "a perceptive man made necessary ones." That landed harder than a shout. Gregory looked at Amelia then, really looked at her, and whatever he saw seemed to age him all at once. "Amelia," he said hoarsely, "I didn't know." She turned to him, and in that moment she understood something important. Weak people often tell themselves they are innocent because they were not the ones holding the knife, but silence can make a perfect sheath.
"You didn't ask," she said. Gregory had no answer. Celeste stepped forward through the silence, tears spilling now without concern for her mascara or her image or her mother's approval. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have said something sooner. I should have." Amelia looked at her, and for the first time, Celeste looked less like Lorraine's daughter and more like Ethan's sister. "I know," Amelia said. Naomi appeared at Amelia's side immediately, one protective hand at her back. Helena joined them from the other side like a silent guard. Lorraine's voice sharpened. "Amelia, whatever Ethan wrote, surely you understand that making a spectacle of this helps no one?" Amelia turned toward her fully, and now there was no tremor in her at all. "No, Lorraine," she said. "You made the spectacle. Ethan just made sure it ended with the truth." For once, no one rushed to rescue Lorraine from the consequences of her own behavior. Not Gregory, not Celeste, not the guests, many of whom suddenly found their shoes fascinating. Arthur handed Amelia the folder. "It's yours," he said. She took it with trembling fingers. The paper felt heavier than paper should, like memory, like promise, like a hand reaching across death to steady her one last time. "What would you like to do, Mrs. Hartwell?" Arthur asked. The room waited. That was the thing Lorraine had never understood about power. She thought it lived in money, in surnames, in who got to stand at the front of the room. But real power sometimes looked like a grieving woman deciding she would not be broken in public just because someone had arranged the chairs that way. Amelia drew a slow breath. "I'm leaving tonight," she said. Lorraine's chin lifted, almost triumphant, until Amelia continued, "Because I refuse to let my child's first home be built inside cruelty." Naomi's grip on her shoulder tightened with approval. Amelia looked around the room. At some point, every person here will lose someone they love. When that day comes, I hope you are treated with more mercy than I was shown tonight. No one could meet her eyes for long. Then she turned to Helena. "Would you help me pack Ethan's letters and the baby things from the nursery?" Helena nodded immediately. "Of course." Gregory took a helpless step forward. "Please, don't go like this." Amelia met his gaze. "How else did you think I would go?" He had no answer either. Lorraine stood rigid, still trying to salvage authority from ashes. "And the child, you would keep my grandchild from this family?" Amelia's face changed then, not cruel, not triumphant, just clear. "I would keep my child from anyone who confuses love with ownership." Then she walked out of the drawing room with her head high, Naomi and Helena beside her, Arthur following with the file in hand. Behind her, the Hartwell guests remained frozen in expensive silence. And for the first time since Ethan died, Amelia did not feel like the smallest person in the room. She moved into the Halston Street townhouse 3 days later. It was smaller than the estate, warmer too. Ethan had chosen it years earlier because he said it felt like a place where real life could happen. There were books stacked in corners, mugs in the kitchen that didn't match, and a sunroom full of half-dead plants he always insisted he was reviving. Amelia sat on the nursery floor there a week later, surrounded by boxes, one palm over her stomach, the other holding Ethan's letter again. She read the line, "You were home the day I met you," so many times she could almost hear his voice breathing between the words. Gregory sent flowers. Amelia returned them. Celeste sent a handwritten letter. Amelia kept it. Lorraine sent nothing for nearly 2 months. Then, one cold morning in November, Amelia gave birth to a daughter. She named her Lily Grace Hartwell. Lily had Ethan's mouth. Amelia knew it the second she saw her, that same soft curve, as if kindness had shape. Amelia cried so hard the nurse laughed through tears herself. Naomi held Lily before anyone else and said, "Well, she's already got better instincts than half the people in that family." Arthur visited the hospital with paperwork and a tiny silver rattle Ethan had purchased months earlier and left with instructions to deliver only after the baby was born. Helena came with knitted blankets. Celeste came too, hesitant and carrying no flowers, which somehow made her trust her more. She simply sat in the chair by the window and said, "She's beautiful." Ethan would have lost his mind over her. Amelia smiled for the first time that day. He really would have. Gregory didn't visit until 2 weeks later. When he arrived, he looked smaller than Amelia remembered, as though regret had finally found a place to sit in him. He stood awkwardly in the doorway of the townhouse nursery while Lily slept in her crib. "I came to apologize," he said quietly. Amelia said nothing. Gregory looked at the baby, then at the floor. "I spent so many years telling myself keeping peace was the same as doing right. It wasn't. I failed my son, and I failed you." Amelia rocked Lily gently. There are apologies that ask to be forgiven, and there are apologies that simply confess the truth because it should have been spoken sooner. This one, she thought, was somewhere in the middle. "I can't fix what happened, but if there's ever anything you need for Lily, anything at all." Amelia studied him for a long moment. "You can start," she said, "by becoming the kind of man she should never have to recover from." Gregory nodded, tears in his eyes, and accepted the mercy of being told the truth. Lorraine came last. Of course she did. She arrived 6 weeks later in a tailored camel coat with a box from an expensive children's boutique and the posture of a woman who still believed she should not have to ring the bell twice. Amelia opened the door herself. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Lorraine's face shifted when she heard Lily fussing somewhere inside the house. Something vulnerable cracked across it so quickly, Amelia almost missed it. Grief, perhaps, or maybe the delayed understanding that love cannot be inherited like silverware. "I came to see my granddaughter," said Lorraine. Amelia leaned against the doorway. "You came," she replied evenly, "to see whether you still had access." Lorraine flinched. It was small, but Amelia saw it. The older woman's gaze hardened, then softened, then fell somewhere in between. "I loved my son," she said, voice thinning. "I know, but love without humility can become possession, and possession destroys everything it touches." Lorraine's fingers tightened around the gift box. For the first time, she did not look elegant. She looked old and tired and smaller than the image she had spent years protecting. "I would like to know Lily," she said. Amelia glanced back toward the nursery, where the soft sound of her daughter settling drifted through the hall. Then she looked at Lorraine again. "You may," she said,
If you learn first that she is not an extension of your name, she is not leverage, she is not legacy dressed in lace, she is a child, mine and Ethan's. If you want a place in her life, it will be built with respect, not entitlement." Lorraine said nothing. That silence was new. Not haughty, not strategic, just empty of easy defenses. Amelia stepped partly aside, but not fully. "Today," she said, "you may come in for 10 minutes." Lorraine nodded once, almost imperceptibly. It was not forgiveness. It was a boundary. Sometimes that is the more loving thing. Months passed. Winter softened into spring. Lily grew. She smiled early, slept badly, loved music, gripped Amelia's finger with fierce determination that made Naomi swear she had inherited Ethan's stubbornness and Amelia's refusal to let go of what mattered. The legal transfers went through exactly as Arthur promised. Amelia learned more about board votes, trusts, and corporate strategy than she had ever wanted to know. She made mistakes, asked questions, took notes, and quietly, steadily became impossible to dismiss. Some of Ethan's old colleagues underestimated her. They stopped after the 3rd meeting. Celeste began visiting regularly, not out of obligation, but love. Gregory came on Sundays with groceries he pretended he hadn't overbought on purpose. Helena retired from the estate and accepted Amelia's invitation to have tea every Thursday in the sunroom. As for Lorraine, change did not come quickly. People like her do not transform in a single dramatic scene. They erode. They are forced, piece by piece, to face the ruins caused by worshiping control. Sometimes she visited and sat too stiffly, unsure what to do with a baby who cared nothing for status.
Sometimes Lily reached for her anyway. And sometimes, while holding the child she had once tried to reduce to an inheritance problem, Lorraine would cry so quietly that only Amelia noticed. Amelia never humiliated her back. That was important, because revenge would have made for a sharper ending, but not a truer one. The truth was this. The night Lorraine tried to strip Amelia of dignity in front of an audience, she exposed more than cruelty. She exposed the emptiness at the center of a life built on appearances. And when Arthur Bellamy opened Ethan's will, it did more than settle an estate. It placed love on the record. It proved that Ethan had seen everything. It proved that kindness is not naive. It proved that gentle people are often the ones who survive the ugliest storms without becoming ugly themselves. And years later, when Lily was old enough to ask about her father, Amelia would tell her many things. She would tell her Ethan laughed with his whole chest. She would tell her he painted a nursery badly, but proudly. She would tell her he talked to her before she was born. And when Lily was old enough for the harder truths, Amelia would tell her this too, that sometimes the people who should protect you fail, that family is not just blood, but behavior, that silence can wound, that dignity matters, and that one man loved her enough to make sure the truth would speak even after he no longer could. If this story moved you, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you think Amelia did the right thing by letting Lorraine see Lily again, or would you have walked away for good? And if you believe that kindness is not weakness, that dignity matters, and that love should always speak louder than cruelty, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next story. Until next time, thank you for listening.